Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're gonna take a look at every single type for the Open Great League. Before we do that, feel free to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Would appreciate it as you can start right off. Ranking them all going to be a little bit difficult because of course it's on my own opinion. If you have a different opinion, feel free to leave them basically in the comment section. That's basically where the comment section is for. So let's take a look at the first type. Being the bug typing, being the first one in the deer tier, which is going to be here of course based on what we're going to see here. Charger bug being basically the only real decent bug type right now in the current meta. Boss Wall is okay, Escavalier is okay, Golisopod is honestly not even okay anymore. It's not really that great. You can beat something like the Medicham with us, I would guess. Actually, you lose against Medicham, so never mind. So let's move on from the bug typing, because this type is sadly horrible. Needs definitely a very big buff if you ever really want to see them. Needs a better fast move, for sure. Fast move is the biggest issue for the bug types, especially if you take a look at the bug types that are currently half-wadeable. You have Volt Switch from a part Electric type, you have Counter from a part Fighting type, you have Counter, you have Shadow Claw. It's just really about the fast moves for bug typing. We need a better one there. Next one coming up here, we're going to be taking a look at the dark typing. Dark types are going to be also fairly decent, and for me an A tier pick, because we're going to have Scrafty, we're going to have Sableye, we're going to have Mandibuzz, we're going to have Guslord, Greninja, Umbreon, Swallows, Obstagoon. A ton of really decent Pokemon that I also see a lot of play in the current meta, but dark types, which is kind of funny because you're going to be able to still do a lot of damage against something like Deoxys Defense, for example, which would be a decent one, or against other ghost types. But actually, I feel like dark type is even a little bit of a lower tier, A tier pick, definitely a solid one. But for me, at least A tier for sure. Next one coming up, going to be Dragon type, and honestly, for this kind of meta, I have to put it into B tier. Dragon type is usually one of the strongest one, but I feel like it kinda got fairly bad for the for the Great League here. You're going to have Guslord, which again is not really that common though. We're going to have Arctibax, which is really cool though. I really like this Pokemon, used it a lot as well recently. We're going to have the Hexorus, which is kinda decent. We're going to have Como, which is we're going to have Dragonite, which is most likely the best Dragon type right now. We have Dragonair, which is okay, but they're all kinda, honestly, for me, that's basically the definition of B tier. Like, higher up B tier, I would say, definitely decent tier, type in general to pick, just because also for the defensive value, as you're going to be able to resist water types, you're going to be able to resist fire types, you're going to be able to resist electric as well as grass, which is really nice. So defensively, very decent, but they are not really the best Pokemon for the Great League for it. I'm most likely going to make a similar video again for the Ultra League as well as for the Mouse League, so if you want to see that as well, leave a like on the video, and also subscribe if you haven't already. Next one going to be the electric typing. This is going to be a type that I'm going to put a little bit lower than you might expect. I would put it into C tier. Honestly, the thing is always electric type Pokemon. You're going to have 3 in the top 100. One of them is Stunfisk, which you don't ever see. Charger Bug is a new one, which is kind of spicy. And then you have Lantern. And Lantern is not really in there just because it's an electric type. It's because it's electric water type. And water typing is kind of buffing it up. So for me, this type is definitely basically a definition of a D tier pick, or like C tier pick here, because it's going to be not as bad as the bug typing. You can still use a lot more electric type Pokemon compared to bug types, as well as the best electric type and bug type Pokemon. Oh, no, not electric type, but best bug type Pokemon is an electric type Pokemon. So it's definitely deserves its spot there, I would say. But let's move on to the next one, which is going to be the fairy typing. And I wasn't sure about this one. I was first putting this one into the A tier, but I decided to put it into the B tier. You could argue about it. Let's take a look at fairy types in the current meta here, as we're going to see that, that's not how you say fairy, as you're going to see here, Carbink is rank 2. But yes, it's there because of the fairy typing, because they resist counter, but is it there because of the type, really? Or is it there because it has an insane amount of bulk and is basically one of the bulkiest Pokemon in the meta? That's like the thing. Like, is it really the type itself? Because you do Moonblast damage here, but it's more like a rock typing that really does this thing there, like is its main job. So I'm not really sure about it. And then you have really the only one that really goes for like the fairy type damage is the Alone Ninetales if you run Charm on it. Azumarill is more of a bulky water type Pokemon again, as you're going to take a look at the water type later on as well. Clefable is okay, but there's not a lot. I feel like this is definitely a B tier pick. Like, honestly, I cannot see myself putting it even at A tier. I feel like it's even worse than a little bit than Dragon here. So definitely Fairy type would be cool if you're gonna see like some cheaper charge move or something for that. I think that would really help this move out, or like this typing out there. Maybe buff Disarming Voice a little bit. Something like this would be really cool for this one for the Great League. Again, those ratings would be very different in other metas. I'm just thinking about Zacian in the Master League, so would be a little bit different there. But next one. honestly, I'm not sure where I want to put it. I'm gonna put it into... I kind of want to put it into A tier now. I had it in my ranking where I went through all the stuff in the S tier, mainly just because, again, Medicham, and there are a lot more fighting types in there. But again, I feel like Medicham holds down the fighting type category, which is kind of funny, just because it kind of gets rid of every other fighter in the meta. I feel like fighting types are really strong. You could argue if S tier as well. Again, I put it into... maybe I'm just gonna put it into low S tier, because look at the amount of fighting type Pokemon. It's just because Counter is very overpowered. I'm just gonna put it into the S tier. I kind of have to. Like, honestly, I kind of have to with the amount of Pokemon that are available there. It is just because for Open Great League, it's Medicham meta, and it is not really that nice for any other fighting type Pokemon. Next one coming up, it's going to be the fire typing. And for me, it's kind of clear that this is going to be a C tier one. Again, I made a video recently, definitely check that one out, on how to buff fire type Pokemon. But if you take a look at fire type, there is only one in the top 100, which is Charizard. But Charizard is really, really strong in the top 100. It doesn't deserve rank 100. I would put it actually into the top 20 Pokemon for the Great League. So, just because of this Pokemon, basically it's high up, but look at the rest. Honestly, like, when do you see really fire types in the current meta? There are so many teams that are super weak to fire types. This is one of the main reasons why Alolan Sandslash is so viable. It is just not really great. Like, the typing itself is just not really great. Salazzle, he had 332. You need better charge moves for this type. You need a better fast move for this type. That's like 2-turn maybe. And again, Charizard is only up there because of the wing attack buff. It's not even because it's like Blast Burn or whatever. It's like, cool, yeah, it's a legacy signature move of fire type starting type, like starter Pokemon. But it's not even really, like, I don't know. It doesn't really say too much about the fire typing in my opinion. So it could even deserve D tier if you want to put it there. I would even put it below electric typing. It's definitely very low. Next one coming up going to be the flying type. You could argue it being S tier. I'm gonna put it into high up A tier. But again, you could argue it could be also different. The thing is here, there are a lot of flying type Pokemon as well. Like, you could argue being it S tier as well. I would just put it into high up A tier so far. Gligar, of course, really strong. Pelipper, Mantine, basically the same Pokemon. Manda's really strong. And afterwards, like, they're all kind of okay. Like, Pidgeot is fine, Tropius is fine, Dragonite, of course, is not really, like, it is a flying type Pokemon, but it just literally does no flying type damage, so I would not even really consider it for it. But after, like, Noctowl nerf, after the Sky Attack nerf, I would put it into A tier. Last season, I would have put it definitely into the S tier, with the Sky Attack still being that strong, but I feel like this is kind of accurate. Next one coming up, going to be the Ghost typing. And I would actually put Ghost typing into the B tier list, which makes a nice, pyramid shape there, which is kind of funny, because if you take a look at the Ghost type Pokemon here, we're going to have the Sableye, which is really strong, you're going to have Frostless, which is fairly decent, and that's basically it. You don't see Jellicent too often. Jellicent is still very decent though, like, I wouldn't even say like it's bad. But the main thing why those Pokemon are still kind of viable is because the meta is around the Medicham. So, Trevenant is kind of gone from the meta as other grass types took its place. Cofagrigus is kind of gone from the meta because you don't really have a decent secondary charge move. You only have basically Shadow Ball and Shadow Claw. Yes, you have Dark Pulse, which is a little bit cheaper, but has similar coverage to Shadow Ball, and you have Psychic, which is even nerfed now. It's not really the greatest one. It's low B tier for me just because of Sableye and Frostless, but that's basically it. Next one is something that I would have not expected to be in this tier, but I would put it, in my opinion, grass typing into A tier nowadays. The thing is, last season I would have maybe even put it into C tier after, like, Noctowl was basically everywhere. But right now, grass types are actually really, really nice. Grass types have a lot of decent Pokemon there. Lurantis, I kind of want to try out, but Lurantis is a little bit too squishy for its own, like, being there. Honestly, it's not really the nicest one. I still kind of hope that we're going to get a buff for the Leafage. Leafage would be really cool to get buffed, because you see already, Leafage is on Abomasnow and Lurantis, and neither of them is using it, so that's kind of awkward. Superior is everywhere right now and is one of the strongest Pokemon in the meta. Then we're going to have very low, actually, Venusaur, especially Shadow Venusaur being fairly decent, which also kind of showcases again how strong, like, those starters are, even though they're ranked fairly low. And Jumpluff is still decent, Tropius is decent, definitely a lot of fairly decent Pokemon left. For me, it's like low A tier, but it's definitely A tier in my opinion. Next one going to be a little bit different, or difficult again, because I feel like this type just gets really high up because of other types, or like other Pokemon that help it out, or like other types that help it out. This is going to be the ground type. You could argue of being, like, it being the S-type tier again, but I would put it somewhere around like the flying typing. Don't really want to put too much into the S tier, to be fair. because I feel like it's kind of more fair. But if you take a look at ground, there are a lot of decent ones. But again, they're all kind of there because of their secondary typing. Ground flying, ground water, ground steel, ground water. Like, it's basically all the same typings here, doing the same kind of stuff, just helping out the ground typing itself quite a lot. So for me, definitely solid. I kind of still have to put it into S tier, right? I feel like having it not S tier is wrong. I have to put it S tier, sorry. The thing is, just because you have Gligar, which is great, you have Swampert, which is great, you have Steelix, which is great. Ground type is just everywhere. It is low S tier in my opinion then, but like it is definitely up there, right? Like it's you can decide, of course, for yourself. It's somewhere between A and S in my opinion. Next one going to be Ice typing. Ice typing going to be, in my opinion, a B tier thing again here, because there are actually a lot of decent ice types, especially in the current meta, which is also based on like ground and flying type Pokemon. Like Alolan Ninetales is decent, Sandshrew is decent, Walrein is okay, Frostus is very decent, Arctibex is really cool, Dugong is really strong. Well, yeah, Walrein is actually not really that great anymore, but this is basically it. Like, you're going to have like, what, 4 or 5 Pokemon that are half decent for this meta. There's only Alolan Sandslash, which is really, really meta. So, yeah, basically B tier is, in my opinion, kind of fair for it. Maybe a little bit higher than actually Dragon, because just of Alolan Sandslash being such a strong Pokemon. But so let's take a look at the normal typing. For me, a clear A tier one for sure, as we're gonna put them here somewhere next to the flying type, in my opinion. Again, could be also S. It's honestly kind of normal type meta right now because of Lickitung. Lickitung just literally pushes this one up quite high. But even Dapple, Vigoroth, Greedent, Diggersby, Pidgeot, Obstagoon, all of those Pokemon are really, really decent. So for me, definitely an A tier one. I wouldn't actually put it into S tier. I think A tier is really where it deserves to be. Very, very solid one. It doesn't do super effective damage against anything, but it only gets hit by fighting type as well. And just Body Slam really helps it out. Like, honestly, if you take a look at all the normal types here, Body Slam, Body Slam, Body Slam, Body Slam, no Body Slam, but very, very bulky Body Slam. So like, it's kind of just this one charge move which really makes it so strong. So very cool one though. Next one coming up is going to be another D tier one. I have to put Poison into the D tier. Yes, you're going to have a few poison types that are a little bit higher than, for example, the fire typing, like Golbat or Toxapex or Sneasler, which is banned. Yes, you have Venusaur, which is the only real decent one in my opinion. But is it really decent because of the poison typing? Only really defensively, as you were able to resist counter. But offensively, you always kind of only go for Wine Whip plus Frenzy Plan anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So this type itself, it has a lot of potential, I would say. There are a lot of Pokemon that could be really cool with it. But you need a better charge move than Sludge Bomb, than Sludge Wave, than Gunk Shot. I mean, Sludge Bomb, I think, is basically your best charge move that's cheap. You have otherwise Sludge, which is horrific and only a few Pokemon can learn. So I feel like you need a better fast move, because, yeah, I mean, Poison Jab is decent, but it doesn't really help it out too much. Poison Sting is also kind of fine, but like, again, you don't really have the best Pokemon for it. But in general, this typing itself is not really the greatest in my opinion. Next one coming up, going to be the Psychic type. And honestly, this is a weird one because I kind of have to put it into A tier. And I thought of putting it actually into B tier because Psychic type itself, I wouldn't even say it's that great. But the thing is just that a few Psychic types are just completely carrying the meta right now, which is Medicham, which is Cresselia, which is Deoxys. This is basically all it, but like those 3 Pokemon are so meta defining that I would just say that they deserve to be in the A tier. Of course, Medicham, yeah, great right now, but Cresselia is an insane core breaker for the current meta. If you have this Pokemon, definitely try this one out. Being able to break Medicham plus the Lantern is just amazing. Plus, Deoxys defense is basically the same as Medicham. Some people just use Medicham, some people use Deoxys defense. Both of them are fine. And otherwise, not really that much coming out from it. And yes, it's kind of not really there because of the Psychic type itself, because look at the damage that they really do. Yes, Medicham runs Psychic, but Psychic is not really a great move, and a lot of people go over, like, now to Dynamic Punch. Cresselia doesn't run any Psychic type charge move. Deoxys has its signature move with Psycho Boost, which is cool for it, but, like, again, like any other Pokemon doesn't learn it. So I feel like it would be cool to have something that is a little bit better for the Psychic type. Something like a Surf clone or something would be really cool. But for me right now, it's still A tier just because of 3 Pokemon, which I feel is fair. Next one, which is also a little bit controversial again. Like, I could see people arguing, oh, you can have to put it higher. But for me, Rock typing is just like, if you really consider Rock typing, yes, it's high up into the C tier because you have Bastion, you have the Carbink, and that's basically it. Like, honestly, you don't see a Regirock ever, you don't see a Credilli ever. but you have 2 Pokemon in the meta, and both of those Pokemon are not there really because of either the typing or like that they do that crazy amount of damage. They're both there because they have the craziest amount of stats. Like, this is basically it. If you go ahead and go for stat product, yes, you're going to have like I can actually go around for not rock. You're going to have here into the top 4 stat product Pokemon, we're going to have 2 rock types. This is the reason why they're up there. It's not because of the rock typing. Rock typing is horrific. Her rock typing is really good offensively, but Battle League is basically mainly about defense. So that's really bad for it. It's just those Pokemon have the craziest amount of stats and great secondary types with Steel as well as Fairy. So yeah, honestly, it's just not really... Honestly, I don't really think it deserves anywhere else to be there, but it's going to be fine. As we can now move on to the 2 last typings. First one, going to be Steel. And I kind of have to put it into S tier. Like, you kind of want to always have a Steel type currently in your team. Especially if you go to like tournaments, you always kind of think, what Steel type am I gonna run? You have Registeel, which is just been there up there for like every season, to be fair. You have Steelix now, which is insanely overpowered, which in my opinion kind of puts it as well into the S tier, mainly because of Steelix. You're going to have Alolan Sandslash, and those Pokemon are just completely defining the meta. While yes, you're going to have a similar stuff basically with the Psychic type, I feel like having a Steel type is so important right now. And this is also the interesting thing about Steel typing. You don't even have great Steel type charge moves or fast moves. They are all completely horrible, but still this typing is up there, which you cannot say about any other type itself. Steel typing is by far the best defensive type in Pokemon Go or also in the normal Pokemon games. So for me, it always has to be up there, and this is also one of the main reasons why ground types are so strong, why the flying types are so strong, because they need coverage against steel types, because otherwise half of the meta gets walled by steel types. So that's the main reason for it. But honestly, the best type of them all is the last one, which is going to be the water typing. And this is going to be my entire tier list. As you can take a look here at the water types, there was not even a doubt for me that this one is the most overpowered one in the Go Battle League for the Great League. Swampert, Poliwrath, Mantine, Pelipper, Wishcast, Quagsire, Jellicent, Poliwrath again, Azumarill, Greninja, Walrein, Lantern, Dugong, Toxapex, Samurott, Tapu Fini. Like, honestly, the amount of water types in the top 100 is absolutely nuts. And yeah, this is the main reason why Lantern is so strong. It's the main reason why Azumarill is so strong. It's just a great defensive type, and especially everything basically here is usually paired with a different type, which is going to help it out even more. Ground only gives it one weakness in total, which is then the grass typing, basically covering for the electric type weakness, which makes electric types also a little bit worse. We're going to have Pelipper, which can basically also make it only weak to rock as well as electric type Pokemon, which is really strong. Same goes for Mantine. And you basically have all those really decent types together with it, which make water type the best type in my opinion for the Great League. And this is going to be it for my video as well about those. What do you think? Do you think I'm correct with this tier list? What would you change? Let me know in the comment section. Also, let me know what tier list do you want to see next, and I see you then. Bye bye.